The Bill Clark Show, presented by Dr. Pepper. And now, Coach Bill Clark.
Welcome in. It's the Coach Bill Clark Show, presented by Buffalo Rock, Dr. Pepper, Pat Smith, along with Landry Roberts, Smalley Robinson, and Coach Bill Clark. Coach, most teams right now, spring football, they got about 6-7 practices in the books. Take us back to when you were the head coach of UAB, Jacksonville State, when you hit that point in spring. What are you looking at?
Yeah, so I was talking to a coach today. I speak at Sanford tomorrow at their clinic. They're in the middle of it. So where are you, in your tenure? What does that look like? How many people return? All those things to me are a factor. Obviously, we've got so much turnover going now. We wanted to develop a physicality in the spring. We've talked a lot about run and play action and stopping the run. We know we can throw the ball all summer, but I'm trying to create a depth chart. And like we said before, where are those spots that you're just going, But hopefully you've created a level of competition that the whole practice is all about competition, how we compete, how we finish. And I've said this so many times. We used to be, and you guys remember way back, you'd say, all right, we're going to play a base front and a base coverage most of spring. That started evolving. I go all the way back to Prattville. I want to try and have everything in. I had every special team. I had maybe not every situation, but we had worked most of the situations throughout the spring. Then we could go back and touch on those things because we were going to then start specifically to opponents. But this is all about competing. Ones on ones, ones on twos, let's get this number 3 guy and put him with the ones and see how he does. So it's just so many scenarios playing out. And then as another coach I was talking to yesterday said, we had a great practice. He said, because nobody got hurt. Because that's obviously always a huge concern.
What can you really learn about your team? I'm not talking specifically about position groups or scheme and making sure they have their assignments down. I'm talking about the intangibles. Can you really learn a whole lot as far as the culture of your team, how you think maybe this team is coming together, their fiber, their wherewithal?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's the point here is, especially now that we don't have another portal. Now, we're going to be bringing in some freshmen. How many freshmen are we even bringing in now? But for these guys that had this giant turnover, which is so many teams with 20 and 30 and even, 40 new faces, wow, you got so much to look at. And you're trying to put combinations together like O-line. What does this 5 look like? What if we move the guy from tackle to, can we move this guy from – you'd be like, we got 6 O-linemen and let's just say the center's bad. We got a really good left guard. Well, can he move over and play center? This is the time you get to experiment. I've said, all right, the offense had a good day. Then be invariably the defense would have the good day. They've just been dog cussed and held to account. So that back and forth with those, we always had 3 scrimmages. We had 1, 2, and then the spring game, which was really more controlled than a lot of the scrimmages.
All right, so we're getting reports out of both Alabama and Auburn. Let's take Alabama, for example. We're getting reports from the first scrimmage that Alabama's offensive line, they held their own. They looked good. They're trying to break in 5 new guys, try to build depth there. Defensive line, meanwhile, wasn't getting much penetration. So is that trying to tell us that the offensive line is going to be improved at Alabama, or is that telling us that the defensive line has some work to do to kind of catch up?
Without seeing it, I would say their offensive line is going to be better.
Okay.
I think they've made changes. They've made it a point of emphasis. Like if I said, we're going to be obsessed with the ball. We've talked about this before, and I said it every freaking day that we're going to have ball security and we're going to go get the ball. Guess what we would do? I think we would do those things.
Yeah.
If you said we're going to do something about this offensive line, we're going to hire some people that are a little bit better. We're going to make it a point of emphasis. By God, we're going to get better up front. If that's what they've said, and that's what I think they're going to get better. Once again, I don't know the O-line. I know Richard Owens, the tight end coach. I know how good he is, and I know he understands the run game and physicality. And
the one report we did hear, remember this, Landrum? They said the tight ends blocked extremely well in the run game from last Friday. No lie.
Yeah, I don't mean that arrogantly, but I'm like, yeah, I know they will because I know him.
Yeah.
And I think when you get the right people coaching these people and you make this the point of emphasis, it's like we said about the run game, we're going to run the ball. If we have to be in full pads every single day, we're going to. Now, it's on us. We got to create the scheme. And, they could put 11 guys in there and you're doing all the block. They got an extra guy hat in the box that we got to be able to still throw some balls. But my point is on things of emphasis. And same thing as we're talking about leadership. If we're talking about things we want to make important, whether it's to your corporation, to your church, if you make it important and you say it every day and you make it a big deal, and that's why when I see, now sometimes it's talent, but when I see people say, well, we need to do this, are you making it a point of emphasis? Are you making it a big deal? Now, as we know, sometimes the Jimmys and Joes are a bit different size and ability, but if they really want to make it a point of emphasis and they really want to be able to run the ball and they really want to get more physical, they'll make a big deal about it.
From the Jimmys and Joes, but also the X's and O's and Alabama offensive coordinator Ryan Grubb, I've ventured to guess that with his success, his pedigree, and what he has on his resume, Coach, that he probably hasn't had to pay this much attention to the running game with so much emphasis being in the offseason. How much do you think he has to maybe change typically what he does schematically to try creative new ways to try to run the ball more effectively?
I think, let's be honest. I mean, the run scheme, the way they ran it, it wasn't that they didn't get X amount of carries, we just need to run the ball 20 times in a game and that's going to suffice. No, that's not it. It's the mindset. It's the way you coach it. It's the way you push it. Now, once again, we're talking about a really, really good coach, but when you're talking about this and we're talking about the history of the game, you've got to be able to run the ball and you've got to be able to stop the run. And you're going to need that in games. And that's what creates balance. And I think there are times you got a quarterback is just that freaking phenomenal. You still got to run the ball. But there are some that are just better than others, and you got Julio sitting out there and you got, and he fell into, I think, a few of those things at Washington. Yeah. But that's a different league, And so, once again, I still go back to what we read from the former Alabama D lineman over at Ohio State. My God, that right there tells you a lot. That tells you a lot. So, I think if you want it, you put the emphasis on it. You make it a big deal. You hire the people that understand what that looks like. Sounds like they're, at least from that standpoint, doing it now. D-line, I can't answer that. And I think even with a really good O-line back in the day, I think they had some years of really being spoiled, And it's like a guy that told me from Ohio State, well, it was Michigan State, they played him in a bowl game back, and he's like, the first guy on D-line was great. I felt, okay, he's like this other guy I saw at Michigan. Yeah. Well, the second guy, he was just as good. Oh, they had a third guy, and you remember that was who they were in the past, and that has gotten spread out. But your D-line still should be in the spring. I still should have a chance to dominate if they're the right people. So that could be a worry. Who knows?
So we keep hearing that the quarterback situation at Alabama, it's still nip and tuck between the two. I always heard growing up that if someone says you got two quarterbacks, you probably don't have any, if it's that way. Yeah. So my question to you is, have you ever gone throughout a whole spring where you literally, whether it's your quarterback coach, your offensive coordinator, yourself, that you literally left spring and you did not have an inclination who that quarterback was going to be?
Yeah, I think what we had some missing pieces in each guy. This guy's really good at this, not quite as good at, the quick game. Can't get the ball out, but he throws the deep ball real well. This other guy is younger. He's got all the tools. And that's when you go into this, we were talking about Mendoza. Do we play him as we're talking about the pros, but will we play him early? What are we going to gain? What are we going to lose by playing this guy early? And I think that's the question maybe when you start talking about guys. What's the missing piece? And you want somebody to just jump out and be so much better than the other guy, but sometimes you got a good number two. There's all kind of reasons. The problem is when this one's got the things that the other one doesn't have, which means they're missing a piece. Yeah. And you're going to have to pick one of them.
What is your scouting department doing at this point? Because now without the transfer portal, maybe it makes it a little bit easier to have a good idea of who's going to be on those rosters in the fall.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Now you're there's some guys that might still be sitting out there, late junior college guys, late qualifiers that you may not have looked at before. And that's where we were at UAB, we were able to get guys that they didn't want to wait on. He's a 1.8 GPA going in to the very end, and you're like, hey, we'll wait on him. We have no choice.
What was that, Prop 48?
Well, I'm talking about a lot of junior college guys, where they're saying he won't graduate until July. he's got to. I mean, we became the experts of the class that you take, and now that because they all transferred, they weren't transferring to us; they were transferring to a junior class. He had to graduate from that junior class. You become an expert. You find the guy that's, man, why is this guy? I mean, you turn on the tape. How's that guy still sitting there? Because he's got a 1.8 GPA. I mean, just being honest, what did they want? They wanted him in January so he could go through spring, go through the weight room. Oh, did he have an injury? Like I've said so many times, that guy had a labrum nobody knew about that he played through the whole year because what's he trying to do? He's just trying to get out of junior college.
Yeah.
So who are the guys that are still sitting out there? I still remember, having some battles with Auburn because they were desperate and they were willing to wait for a guy. We were waiting on him, thought we had him, and all of a sudden Auburn's like, oh, we need a tackle. We'll wait on him. We were able to get guys late, and then you just try to develop them the best you can. But we were willing to take that guy.
The coaches that you talk to now, have they been able to breathe a little bit of a sigh of relief because, as Landrum mentioned, that second transfer portal is gone.
Yeah.
And it's just that one. Is there a little bit of relief now?
Oh, yeah, no doubt. I think this was whatever happened, it is what it is. And now we can at least just be coaches. We can coach the guys on our roster. We know the guys we got coming in the summer, minus, like we said, minus a few spots. Now, if I'm talking about John Gross in FCS football, he's still going to be looking for some of those junior college guys, whatever. And those guys are for a few spots. But it's not, who's going to come steal people right off my roster? Oh, I'm worried about playing a spring game. I mean, how insane was that? This, to me, at least brings us back to we're looking at the teams. They can have a better spring. I'm going to go not even have a spring game because I'm scared some guy's going to see the guy off my roster. Now, there are people looking ahead to the next year already, to what Landrum asked about. They're going to start doing that soon, but hopefully it brings us back to a little bit of sanity.
Well, we're all looking for extra revenue streams in college football, college athletics, whether it's a patch on the jersey,
Right.
on the field, whatever, naming rights, additional revenue stream. I know that Coach Prime, he agreed to do it. Syracuse, they said that they would do it, but spring games between schools. Make this a revenue earner.
Yeah.
A TV event, a showcase, whatever. You see that happening? Ever?
I think it's a possibility. I mean, we would have said a million things. Pat came up with 10 ideas that were crazy.
You
half
hated
were
all
decent.
of them.
I hated half of them. No, but seriously, I mean, I think we could see it because
If a coach came to you and offered you
mean,
that, would you be open to it?
I would.
I would never
Now.
ask the question.
Yeah.
I'm talking about now.
But where we are now, this day and age, and everybody's starving for
Yes.
additional ways to get money,
Yeah.
I think that's something we could probably put on the table.
Well, I said that story about Alabama, who I love. Obviously, it's my state, and I mentioned this on the deal, how we have a rule in high school where you have to choose between a spring game and a fall game. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. Kids want to play in games, and we need revenue. Why would we not let them play a spring game and a fall jamboree like we used to? I mean, Rush and I would play each other every year because we'd have a great crowd.
Absolutely.
One, it was a great measuring stick for both of us. And I'd say, of course, we want to play each other, and we'd pack it out for a spring game. And it was great for the kids. It was a great barometer for us. But why would you not give them two opportunities to this point? And they do have a lot of revenue, don't get me wrong, but that would be something that might be considered, just especially when you're not worried about people stealing people off your roster.
I'd pay $15 to go and see
Well, sure.
Sure you would.
two college football teams in the spring.
Sure you would.
Go ahead, Ed.
So because of there is no other secondary transfer portal window, then you would feel more comfortable. It would not be an injury type situation that you'd be worried about. You would be more concerned if that second transfer portal window was open and somebody could steal
Right.
your third string backup right guard.
which was insane. I would always be worried about injury. I'm always worried about injury.
But that wouldn't have kept you from playing a game
no,
because it's part of the game.
part of the game, and you're
Okay.
going to play the same game because you're still going to be basic. Well, if you're going to be basic at a scrimmage game, the only difference would you get into the winning, needing to feel the need to win. And I think
Or you might keep a kid in a little bit longer
That's
because
it.
you are trying to get a win.
I think a lot
in
of
spring
coaches
game.
would shy away from it because it's one time where you say, I mean, you get so tired of knowing you got to win. I mean, it's what keeps you up at night. It's why you work 24/7. You are going to get judged on every game because we're going to turn around and talk about the Colorado whoever game the next Monday. And if you lose it and you look bad, Now, there's some guys that may not worry about that, but that might be a factor for some guys. But they may say, hey, it outweighs the fact that we get to go see our guys head to head against them. I don't know. I don't know that I would care to do it, but at the same time, when you're a place that's always looking for revenue, you might do it.
Well, it's also interesting because I know in basketball, they have these preseason, but it's not open to the public. So it's not a money generating type event.
Right.
But all the time, Alabama will go fly somewhere and play a team in a close scrimmage.
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess you could technically do that for football teams, but it goes against the whole purpose of trying to raise money.
Yeah.
To sell tickets. So
Yeah.
One thing, talking about money, Smart Bank, great sponsor to the program. You know that those bank folks very, very well.
I do, yeah. And we say it over and over, and it's kind of like talking about protecting the football. People that are good folks that know their customers, that have all the amenities of the big bank, but all the small town feel of knowing who you are and caring about you is what we have at Smart Bank.
All right, as we continue on here on the Bill Clark Show, presented by Dr. Pepper, Buffalo Rock, I wanted to ask you about an interesting thing that came up this week, and it's kind of fun to talk about. But Auburn has instituted the Iron Bowl period at the back end of their practice. Don't know if you heard about that, if you have any thoughts about that, or did you do that when you were at Jacksonville State or UAB, where you had a specific part of practice for an end-of-the-year game?
Yeah, somebody just brought it up to me today, in fact, and I love it. I mean, I think if that would have happened with me at Auburn, or Alabama, because I think this is some things we had back in the day. Anything that places emphasis. We had a team when I was at Tuscaloosa County. We broke it down on Falcons. There was only 3 area teams,
Right?
And they were in our town, and we broke it down on Falcons. I remember, and some guys that would play for me, and they had Dennis Riddle and May and all those guys in the backfield. We had said Falcons on every whistle break for a year. And you say, you literally talked about one team? Well, I knew they hated them anyway, just like they hated us. We were country high.
Country high.
Country high.
Hey, I might have to use that.
Isn't that good?
This year in the region.
So
That's good.
So we broke it down on Falcons. They were so tired of saying Falcons. I was so tired of hearing Falcons. We're playing at Bryant-Denny. They come out before the game. They start clapping. They're on the other side. Huge. That's when they had 3,000 students. Yeah. Falcons. I can still hear it. Give me chills. We beat them that night. But if that was the game, yeah. I mean, I think anything without every game's important. We're going to play, and we are. We're going to make every big game. We're not going to overlook this game. But that game's got just a little bit more to it.
They'd show up, roll 120 off the bus.
Oh yeah,
I remember
they were
that.
120 good ones.
And you get down to like 118, 119, and they ran out of the same color helmet.
Yeah,
I mean that's how many they brought back in the day.
They had more students and they had great athletes.
Yes,
and so we get beat. The first year I said, all right, we're gonna be ready for this one. And I'm in the weight room. I said, but we only had 3 area teams. You had Jesselneer, Hueytown, and them.
Ooh. And
Jesselneer was always good, but this was a rival game. It was the last game of the year. We played it in Bryant-Denny. Why not? I don't know that we did it every time, but we did it, and we made a big deal. And they came out. I didn't tell them to come out and say five. And I'm like, oh, Lord. They're calling them out.
Oh!
Before that, but it was so ingrained in them because we had put it in them.
Yeah.
And that's what I say, what you talk about, what you focus on, what you make a big deal. Kind of like the Eastern Kentucky story I told y'all from Jack State, where the coach is talking about me. He didn't even know it, but I knew it. And that's why when I say don't give something to the opponent, But I think anything that gives it just a little more emphasis, I don't know. I think it's cool. I like it.
In regards to, and I know you've told us the story about Eastern Kentucky, but was there ever a time at, let's say UAB, where you lost a game, whatever fashion it may be, and it might have been that La Tech game that you got screwed on in the goal line down in Ruston.
Screwed.
That you literally, from that point on, that was your motivation, and that maybe not every single day, but maybe you looked at your game plan like 10 months in advance prior to knowing that they're on your schedule for the next year?
Absolutely.
You did do
that?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Marshall. I went through a period with Marshall when we blew that first, prior to playing them that year, I had watched them a lot, but those things grew. And so what I always said to myself, and I said this to our coaches, I said, we've just become that team. You know, when we started winning at Prattville, I just said, you become circled. We'd play teams, they didn't care the week before, the week after. I mean, they cared. But I found out they were practicing on us all summer. So you got to be saying, that's us, because I know how I felt, like the Eastern Kentucky coach. It was a great coach. But we were going to be ready for that game, you know, or after the game when they showed their ass, you know, we're sure going to be ready for them. And I'm going to be looking at them. And that's what I say. What happens when you're the team in the offseason when they cut the film on? And they got an extra second, it's you. Now, I used to tell our guys, all right, they got a pen, we got one too. But I was circling all of them, you know, but that's kind of what I always, Justin Kraft, who, you know, good buddy of mine, UAB guy, he said, Coach, you know, I always bet on you after a loss. He said, you always won. I said, well, I don't know about that, but, you know, I sure didn't want to lose 2 in a row.
Yeah.
You know, but I would say, how was I with the team that beat me the year before?
Good point.
Because that, kind of like I was saying in 22, there were some teams, you know, that we were going to be ready. We were going to be ready
That
for
whole
them.
break on Falcons, you just took me back to Crush Team. We called it Crush Team because they were orange pullover jerseys for the scout team.
Yeah.
And it was our rival week. And I remember one of our older guys, I was a sophomore, but started the chant. And it was the rival's nickname that we were playing.
Yeah.
And the entire scout team defense started chanting
All
that
those
nickname.
things.
Yeah.
Aren't those the cool things? You know, I remember in
Yep.
the playoffs, things that I would do different. Like, they always knew the playoffs were different. I told y'all, the team that wants to keep playing, like, they always knew when school was over, I'm playing the fight song of the opponent.
Yeah.
You know, like Tennessee, you know, I got their fight, and it played, and they just knew.
Yeah.
It was just, what did I create different playoffs? What did you create different for a rival? But that's the fun. That's the stuff as a kid that I grew up on that I just loved.
Never anything that involved livestock, though, in the locker room.
Not in the locker room. Remember, we had the live
Oh, that's
lion.
right. Yeah, the lion.
Yes.
You know, but not in the locker room. He was in the indoor.
Yeah, Mufasa.
That's great stuff.
Yep.
All right. Webb Concrete and Building Supplies, another fine sponsor here at the Bill Clark Show.
Yeah. Phil Webb and the guys at Webb Concrete. Obviously, Jacob, my son, works for those guys. All the things you need for construction, but also housing, from concrete to flooring, all parts of building a home or a business.
One thing is for sure, Coach, you know, with spring ball going on, we've kind of turned the corner from basketball. Now we're kind of refocusing, you know, everything with college football. And we still do not know about a college football playoff expansion. Now, some expansion committee news this week. But in regards to the committee, we're still debating whether it should be 12, 16, or 24. And I know we've kind of bantered it back and forth with you over the last couple of months. But as you've had time to kind of digest it, where are you at right there? 12, 16, 24, heck, you want to go back to 4?
You know, I like 12. You know, in my mind, I thought, okay, maybe we could go to 16, but somewhere in there, where do we end? You know, and that's my only worry, is do we keep going so far that we water down our regular season games? But at the same time, given a chance, we've got to give an opportunity to even the smaller schools or whatever they are, if they're in it, they've got to have an opportunity. And if that's 16 to get everybody in it, okay, I might could see that, but we just got to cut it off, because if we don't, we're going to water down the regular season, and that's what makes college football great.
More inventory, more games, more revenue.
Yeah. Well, that's the problem, right? Yep. I mean, why not 32? You know, where do we end when it's always going to be more money?
24 just feels like a good number.
Yeah. I like I said, whatever that number is, if we could I just wonder, is that going to end it? You know, it's 24.
Well, with our college football rankings, why did we stop at 25 back in the day?
Yeah.
Does everyone think about that? So 24 seems like,
Or why not just 20?
or yeah.
I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah.
I've never thought of it.
Yeah. Only thing I would say is, where does it end, and can we end it? Can this end it? This next one that's got to be it. Unlike basketball, you're not dealing with injuries.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's fine to play more.
Yeah.
It's fine to let more teams come in. It makes it great. It is good, but they're not banging on each other. You know, this is a physical game, and we don't want to. And what I've always said, what makes us different than the other sports is this game counts forever.
Yeah.
The second game of the year, the third Saturday, we're going to keep up with it forever. The more we water those down, the worse it's going to be.
Yeah.
You know, keep something with them, even if we expand a little bit more to give everybody opportunity. I just said we got to protect the regular season games.
Coach, I noticed very clean vehicle once again. Donahue Chevrolet, very nice Tahoe.
Took me all the way to the beach and back, so safe, clean. I brought it
That
back
was
in
rain. That wasn't.
Well,
you didn't
it
clean
rained also. But love our folks at Donahue. Fine Chevy products. Ridiculous deals. I think of Landrum. Ridiculous.
Thank you.
So our friends at Donahue. Appreciate them.
Coach, CoachSafely.org. You guys are staying very, very busy. It's been a very successful spring so far. What's going on with you guys?
Well, obviously we've added Coach Safely to the big board. You know, they've stepped up, which is we've stepped up. You know, CoachSafely.org is now live with a brand new website. You know, we got the app coming out any day. Been saying that for a minute, but website came in live today. So if you go to CoachSafely.org, you're going to see a new website updated. Georgia, Louisiana, Arkansas, always first in Alabama, but just a lot of good things going on with Coach Safely.
Well, I can tell you this, and I know I see you and your grandson at the ballpark a good bit, and being an umpire, being out there, knowing that everybody that's on the field in Trussville is required to go through the CoachSafely.org. Like, it's state law.
Yes.
I mean, you have to do it. But from a standpoint of being on the field, you feel like that if something does happen, that the coaches have got the proper training. So that's huge.
Yeah, I mean, it's everything. You know, and we're dealing with little ones. You know, I told a coach today, this was a high school coach and one of my former players, and I said, look, at the end of the day, when you go home, if you've talked every time about keeping your head up, about seeing what you're hitting, tackling the correct way, you're going to sleep good. And I think that's what we've got with Coach Safely. If we're giving them the basics of the, you know, I mean, we've got CPR and all those other things we can talk about, but that's a good feeling.
Sure is. This has been the Coach Bill Clark Show, presented each and every week by Buffalo Rock and Dr. Pepper. For Molly Landrum, I'm Pat. That's Coach. Have a great week. See you next week on the Coach Bill Clark Show.
This has been the Bill Clark Show, presented by Dr. Pepper.